Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I see that you're already, some of you are already in this room with us. We're going to start in about 1 minute.
Yeah, thank you, Deanna, for welcoming our participants and our guests today. We will be having a little bit of an interactive training, especially to get us kicked off. So you can see some of the Zoom tools here as you're filing in. You can join the audio if you have not already done so. If you want to share something, we encourage you to come off video if you're talking and sharing with us. If you need to change your name, you see that number 2, you can do so in the participants, and then the chat we will be using fairly consistently as well. We'll explain these as we have you utilizing these tools, but really just wanted to give you a quick guide to this as we want to engage you, interact, and hear from you as well, some of your best practices and experiences.
Yes, Ben, and by the way, if your username is not your name and you want to rename yourself, you can do that really quick, easy. You can click on participants, then look for your number or your user, and you can go on the 3 dots, more, rename, and you can rename, or just, drop it in the chat and we can do that for you. We're still not that many yet, so I think we can manage that right now. And welcome, everyone.
Today, welcome everybody who has joined for our event today. We are going to be talking about enhancing our employee experience. How do we empower our sales and service teams to achieve better results for our business, for our clients, and those that we work with? Now, 2 things we want to make sure that you're aware of: who we are and why you're here and what you'll be learning today. So introducing myself, my name is Ben Brown. I'm the director of our enterprise solutions. I get to work with some of our most exciting and fun clients and see how they're working and transforming their teams and their businesses. Together with me today is Deanna Menendez, a senior training consultant, a master trainer with Dale Carnegie. She'll be walking us through some of those best practices with Dale Carnegie. Well, you also may see a couple of support people in the background. They'll be from Dale Carnegie. Joe Murray is our producer. A best practice that we have is to always have a producer supporting with the technical pieces of the training so that us trainers are able to maintain focused, be in the moment working with you. Now, what are some of the key things that we are going to cover today? One is, as we're empowering our teams to be more engaged, we want to provide them the tools, the behaviors, and the practices to do so. And training is often a way for us to do that. However, we want to make sure that we're maximizing that time that they have together, that they're excited, they're getting to practice things so that they're ready to apply them. Then what are some of those best practices when people go to a training and they feel that it's an event? What are some of the things, the tools that we can use, the best practices that our clients are having to bridge that gap from training event to application to continuous change on the job? Now, also, we often have silos, especially in sales and service teams, where we work with our specific team, whether it's at a specific site, in a specific country, supporting a specific business unit. How do we work together to break down those silos? And how can training help in that approach? How do we integrate training? All of us are busy every day. We don't have a ton of time. And I really appreciate everybody giving us an hour to support you in this, but we recognize that's difficult. So how do we integrate training into competing priorities while also measuring the outcomes so that we can express why it's so important, how the benefits are to you and to your employees? And then finally, understanding the full customer experience is more than sales and just customer service departments. How do we work throughout our organization to provide that wow experience to our clients so that they will refer us, they will continue to be our clients, because they are what helps us grow as organizations. They are our future. So to start with, giving you a highlight of a couple key models in the customer service areas, and really just giving you that best practices of an engaging experience, I'm going to turn it over to Deanna Menendez.
Thank you, Ben. And well, today, our goal is for everyone to experience a little bit of how we work in our live online sessions. We have different tools that we provide to the participants. So we want to not only talk about that, but hey, let's all experience how this goes, right? Sometimes if you're here and you're a learning leader, sometimes you don't get to be on a training, but now today we want you to experience that. And if you've been in a training before, enjoy this, because you're going to have the chance also to walk away with at least one tool that you can apply into your business that can help us, to empower our teams. Because, hey, we can empower our teams through training. But besides having the opportunity to experience a little bit about how we do this, after this demo session, we're going to get the chance also to hear from Ben, one of the best practices that our clients are doing so they keep their teams focused into results. So why don't we just get used to or familiar with Zoom? Because we're going to be asking you, hey, tell us in the chat. If you want to share your thoughts, raise hand, tell us, come off mute, or, by the way, I see that a lot of us already have our camera on, which is amazing. Thank you for that. I love, right now I see John Faust. I see you smiling there. So thank you for that. And we're going to be using chat, audio, even annotation tools. So if you don't feel that familiar or comfortable with Zoom, don't worry, we'll help you to find that really easy. Just let's have one first practice. Can we all go to the chat and tell us what's your current role right now in your company? Thank you. Okay, so we have, thank you, Lisa. You were the first one sharing that message there. Okay. Peter, tons of messages right now.
Oh my gosh, a really diverse group. We knew this. We had senior executives when we looked at the roster. We know we've got them from the US, we've got them from Canada, we've got some international folks from India and Mexico, but really cool. A lot of talent coordinators, talent director, CS, Josh, rather. So lots of diversity. Some people focused on specifically sales, others on customer service. Great way to find out who's here.
Thank you, Peter. And by the way, the demo session today is going to be about how we can manage our customer or clients' expectations, right? We might not have external customers or clients, but we daily interact with people around us. So can we all go to reactions and raise hands? How many of us here needs to interact with customers on a daily basis or clients? I see a couple hands up. Yeah, a lot of hands up, right? It's like this. All of us, we're continuously interacting with people. And today, we're going to talk about what can we do to make sure that we are aligned so we create a better experience. And why they just, and Joe, maybe you can help me to put some hands down, because we're just practicing and we're getting familiar with how to raise hand in the chat. Let's all try this exercise. So in a moment, get ready, please. And what we're going to be doing is that take one of your hands and cover one eye, please. Let's try to do that. Let's cover one of our eyes. Let's do that. Try to look around, look at your keyboard, the camera, whoever is next to you. Okay, try to experience how it looks like when you are not able to see with this eye. Okay, got it? How about now? Oh, I see some eyes, some lights there. What's the difference between working with one hand covering our eye and with, a full view? Who would like to share what's the difference? And I'm still trying to see. Okay, now I'm back. You can tell us in the chat, how do you feel more comfortable? How it feels better? Yeah, we're limited. We might be losing 50%, right, of our visibility, definitely. Both are better than one. Yes, we don't see the, I'm sorry, I'm holding my eye because I think I covered too hard. Yes, we get more, right? So the same thing happens when we think about our customers' expectations. If we don't allow the time to understand what they are, where we are, and how to close that gap, it's like doing this, right? And sometimes in sales or customer service, we're finding, or we're kind of struggling. Hey, I'm doing everything I can, but it feels like we're not moving forward. So the model that we're going to be covering today can help us in a really simple way to start uncovering maybe those blind spots that can help us to enhance the customer experience. And just to share a little bit more about the power that customer experience has in our business, we can take a closer look to this by numbers.
Absolutely. You look at these numbers, scan through the data, various sources for these data points on the screen here, but scan through them. And by the way, I will tell you that this data and the things we're referencing here are pre-pandemic numbers. So first of all, if you can rewind to pre-pandemic, which one of these, type in the chat, please, which one of these resonates for you or for your business? Like all of them are significant, but which one resonates for you? And we may call on one or two of you. So find your chat. Make sure you're chatting with everyone. By the way, some of you are chatting with just the hosts. Type that number in the chat. There we go. There's always bonus points, Tom, for first in. Stacy's got 3. Stacy, can I invite you, just come off mute, and organizations that take their business elsewhere because of poor customer service. That may be a restaurant. Think of yourself as a consumer for a second. What's a business, Stacy, that you say, yeah, I took my business elsewhere? What was it? Come off mute. Okay, not seeing this. By the way, just a couple of you are still privately chatting to one person in the room. Make sure you're chatting with everyone. Joe, if you got someone that's off mute and it's on camera? Courtney and Kelly, good to have you both here. Either one of you, come off mute. Courtney, Kelly, please.
We chose number 3.
Okay, tell us a little bit about that from a consumer perspective or from your business perspective.
Well, we work for a financial institution and we work in a region where there are plenty of them. So if we don't provide good customer service, they have a lot of other options. So it's very important for us to have our game face on every day.
Absolutely. I have taken my financial business elsewhere when I didn't get the service expected. Now we've got a mixture of these. Deanna, we can see that the numbers are relevant. Now, my question to everyone, just before we leave these numbers, is in the chat, do you believe that customers are more or less demanding post-pandemic? Type better or worse. In other words, is it worse for customer service agents because customers are more demanding? You can type a yes if you believe that to be true. No, if you think no, people are more understanding. Deanna, you can see what's happening
More
here.
more demanding.
You got it. Okay, over to you.
Yes, and as we can see, let's focus on number 2 and 4. Do we see the difference between the good news and when something goes wrong? And now with social media, I think that even can get to more people, right? So to be able to create a positive experience for our customers is critical. And by the way, this also applies into our internal clients too, right? Because how we're building up the culture in our companies, how are we reinforcing the image that we give away as a department? So let's just take a moment and just, Peter, you were talking about data that it's from this year, and there's a statistic from Salesforce that says that 80%, customers think that 80% of the experience is as important as its products and services. So it's something that matters. Let's just take a moment and think about your company, your department, your role. What's one word that comes to mind that you would like your clients or customers to use to describe the customer experience? Just one. I know it's difficult because it's just one. But what's trustworthy, helpful, exceptional? Wow, yeah, superior. And just like Courtney and Kelly were saying, right? We're not the only ones out there. So we do need to make a difference. And sometimes we get, I don't want to be that absolute, but definitely the experience that we create can make a difference there. So people can come back and they can trust us. Dependable, efficient. So let's see how can we get closer to that by following this model. Today, we want to share with you the AIM model. So these are 3 steps that we can follow, simple steps. And the beauty of simple is that allow us to really take the time and take some strategic decisions. So we don't want to get too complicated. Let's keep it simple so we can really take advantage of the information that we can take from these 3 steps. And the first one has to do with how we can analyze our customers' expectations. So by coming off mute, you can raise hand if you want. I know that some of us are like, oh, should I come off mute? I'm not that used to it. Don't worry, we're in a safe place. So we're just having fun. And we're also eager to know more about what you're doing today, right? So currently, what are you doing to know more about your customer expectations? What's a best practice that you can think of? Or if you don't really want to come off mute, it's okay. You can share it in the chat too. Thank you, Keith. Surveys, yeah.
Do interviews with certain stakeholders. If we have a good relationship with them, we try to utilize that relationship.
Thank you, Nikki. And what has been the benefit of doing this for you? Well, for the company.
I think it's getting feedback that's a little bit more open. So it's not just like a question where people have to type. It's a little bit more of a dialogue, and it helps to like read into what they're saying and the context of it versus like taking it out of context and only knowing about maybe them getting a survey after something negative or something bad have happened, that like it could have been one of many interactions. So I think getting a bigger picture.
Wow. And from what I'm hearing, you're saying that we do need to build a relationship that is based on trust. So we get an honest feedback.
Right.
Ooh, yeah. Thank you for that, Nikki. Because if we even take a step back, we will see that to run a successful interview, we do need to spend some more time first, right? To create the right environment so we get accurate feedback around the expectations.
Yeah, communication is key. And I think that communication is the way to build trust.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Nikki. Yes. And so, Peter, do we see any trend in the chat so far with all the responses that we got? And by the way, everyone, thank you for sharing your best practices in the chat.
Yeah, well, like for example, Jason says it's situational. He says depending on the business and depending on the type of business.
Yes.
We've got, with the 200 plus people in the room here, we've got a variety of users, a variety of businesses, and seeing it from that perspective, the customer's perspective is critical. Get the data. Without that, you're just aiming blindly. So
Yes.
lots of good stuff coming in here.
Thank you, Peter. And Jason, that's a spot on, because there are different ways on how we can analyze our customers or clients' expectations, right? And we can do that. We can choose which one could be better for us, depending on our business. If we're doing this for an external customer, or is it internal? And we got different options. We are sharing some of here in the slide, as you can see. We got polls and surveys. I saw that was a popular one in the chat, right? That's something we can do. And by the way, I see that some of us are taking notes. We're going to be sharing this recording with you at the end. So if you don't get to take a note or a screenshot, don't worry, you will get access to this after we finish our event today. Also, we can have some focus groups. And Nikki, I think you mentioned one-on-one interviews, right? So we can do that. I remember when I was part of the sales team back in Guatemala, that was something I loved doing with my customers, even with the most difficult ones, right? Because if I could understand more about what they were expecting and what maybe was the gap, it was easier for me to create a better experience afterwards. Also, we can create a persona. Are we familiar with what a persona is? Like, it's a profile, right? Oh, thank you. Some of us are not familiar. Some of us, yes, William, I saw that you said, yep, I'm familiar with that. If we're not familiar with what a persona is, well, basically it's like creating a profile. For example, our customer, between what age, what's the age range they are, what the type of lifestyle they have, right? Yes, thank you, Peter. So brands like Apple, they have a persona created so they know how to communicate to their customers. And this also, I guess, is also something useful for marketing, right? Because we speak our customer language. That's everything. What we're trying to aim here is to connect with our customer, to create that experience where they think about us like, wow, that was different. And we can do that if we speak our customers' language. It's not about dragging them to us, but us going closer to them. So can let's take a moment, and we're gonna go and use the annotation tools. Right now, if you're not familiar on how to access that, don't worry. Just move your mouse, move there. You will see that at the bottom left of your screen, there's a green pencil icon. If you're on a cell phone, it's at the bottom too. Do you see that pencil? Click on it. A toolbar will appear on the left side of your screen. So if you are joining from a browser, you can only draw. If you are not joining from a browser, good news, you get access to the stamps. The stamps, you can find them on the check mark. Do you see a check mark there? Click on that check mark. There's this, oh, I love it. They're already, yes, let's play on that on the screen. It's okay. Okay, yes. So you found the check marks and the drawing options. So right now, I'm gonna ask Joe, our producer, to clean the whiteboard. So please stop. Thank you, Katie, for the start. So we're gonna stop for a moment. We're gonna clean the whiteboard. And now let's put a stamp or a mark next to any of those 4 options that we would like to take away today as something different that we want to start doing to analyze our customers' expectations. Thank you. As I see that number C, that letter C, it's something that we want to do. And yes, it's important. We do need to allow time to have those conversations. Do we notice that all of those options require questioning our customers? The power of a good question is priceless. Now, let's think about our own role. Our role, our business, our industry. What could be a question? And you don't need to tell us today. This is something for you. So maybe take a piece of paper or open a document there. Let's type down what's one open-ended question that I can think of, that I can ask my customer or client the next time to know more about their expectations. And by the way, it's not what do you think about our service? Like, it's not good, bad, yes, no. Let's open that. What is one thing that you enjoyed the most when you make business with us? What could be different? Like, what needs to happen in order for you to see us as your number one option the next time? So I'm going to keep quiet for 10 seconds. We can brainstorm there. If you're with a partner in your room right there, turn next to your partner. Let's brainstorm at least one question there. Thank you. I see that someone's already sharing that in the chat.
Excuse me.
Hey, Martin.
Morning.
Morning. Any question that is crossing your mind? Ooh, Jordan, thank you for that. Oh, I'm gonna bring you to my live online sessions. I'm loving those questions. Yes, and by the way, this is the power of what we do on the live online sessions. All participants get to learn from everyone. We are in different industries here today. We are coming from different companies, but still we can learn from each other. And I'm gonna stop just here. Usually what I will do here is that, hey, let's all go to our breakout room, have a 3-5 minutes conversation, and let's brainstorm around powerful questions. So we can walk away today with at least 5 questions that we can start asking our customers. Sadly, we are over 200 people today here, so we cannot do that today. But hey, we got the chat. If you want, take any of those questions and take it for you, because that's the power. Simple model, powerful questions. Let's move into the second step of this AIM model, which is once we know what the customer or the client, right, is expecting, we should ask ourselves, what are we delivering? How are we providing that? And where's the gap? If we think about this step, who you will think should be involved when we move to this second step in our business to make it count? Thank you, Stacy. I see that you're giving feedback to some of the questions already. Yes. For example, I was part of the marketing team back in Guatemala, and I remember that sometimes it felt like we were working in silos, right? The sales team, the marketing team, the franchisee, and we were not talking to each other. And if we could just, think about in what ways can we come together, take all the information that we have from that previous step, and take a strategic action to move closer to close that gap. Maybe we can even, how can we become more agile, right? How can we be adaptable? Just like Peter mentioned, the numbers of the customer experience after pandemic are completely different. And I was just reading an article yesterday from Forbes from 2023. That I think it was 100 statistics about customer service, and they blow my mind. I was like, whoa. Yes, thank you everyone for sharing that. So right now, let's ask ourselves, how often do we take the time to identify those gaps? Any thoughts? How often do we do that? Jim.
Continuously?
Yes, Nikki?
Sorry, I cut someone off.
No, it's okay. Tell us. I heard that you do it all the time.
I was just gonna say continuously, if you're fortunate enough to work at a company that has a team dedicated to that, it's nice because they're able to kind of bring things back after baselining it. So as long as you have a baseline and you can work from that, it can help with the strategy and ultimately the execution of the different things that you want to do to accomplish what the customers are looking for.
Thanks for that. What has been the impact for you, the business, the culture of the company? Because you're doing this continuously.
It's still pretty new. I will say I'm still very new to my company, but coming from other companies that are a bit smaller, it's actually been a huge shift in that it's keeping everyone on the same page, just trying to understand from their perspective, like if they're considered a subject matter expert, what does that mean? And then how does that ultimately impact them so that when they come to the table, why are they coming to the table and what are they bringing? And I think just giving everyone a clear idea of how they can impact the overall goal, but incrementally.
Yes. And, Nikki, you said you're lucky enough to be in a company that it's, more aware of doing that, right? Some other companies might not be in that position yet, but it's not bad, right? That's why we're having this conversation today. In fact, I was reading this book, Winning on Purpose. It's from the creator of the Net Promoter Score. And he shared a best practice, how one company, a brand, I think it was Apple, he worked really closely to different companies. There are tons of examples in this book. But that example, he shared that every single store before opening, they will have a meeting with the team to talk about, the NPS results from the prior day. And we will talk about acknowledging someone that had a really good review, a good result, and talk about what needs to happen different today based on our customers' comments. Why I'm sharing this, because sometimes we might think, oh my God, in order to have something happen, we might have to get somebody involved that, someone that is on the top levels of making decisions in our company. But hey, there's no need to wait for that. We can also do that on our day-to-day activities. Ask yourself, what can I do better today based on the feedback that I got from my customers? But we do need to make sure that we're analyzing that. And the last step on that AIM model is how we can manage those expectations. Because maybe we are on our path to close that gap, but we're not there yet, right? It's okay. But how can we manage those expectations and how we can monitor? And Peter, I know that you had a lot to share on this one. So tell us more, please.
Well, influencing expectations, let's just bump it up to the second one on the screen, Deanna, the accentuating the positive. There's research out there that will prove that customers in their normal business situations tend to dwell on the negative. And the research around this is that if you've ever, for example, had a loyalty card, you shop at CVS or Walgreens and you or Kohl's in the US, for example, there's a retailer that has a great loyalty experience. They'll print right on the receipt. You have earned 121 Kohl points, or CVS, you have saved yourself $21.37, because they want to remind you, using the notion of accentuating the positive, moving customers away from dwelling on negatives, which is a sort of a natural tendency, right? What used to sell newspapers, if you ever bought a newspaper, was a negative headline, right? So accentuating the positive is the starting point of influencing those expectations, Deanna.
Yes, and I was even thinking about, internal customers or internal clients. If we are giving support on internal client, hey, maybe the process is not there yet, but how can we try to empathize with our colleague? What can we say so we focus on that positive, right? I understand how you're feeling. The positive about the situation is that we are working already on that. What I can do right now is A, B, C, and D. And maybe next week we can have a conversation with. So this really allow us or put us in a position where we become proactive and productive, right? It's not like, oh my God, well, there's nothing we can do. But yes, we can manage and monitor. And just like Nikki mentioned, well, communication is key. Here for this step, attitude or mental, like self-awareness, how we're taking care of us. And if we're here from a learning perspective, if we're the directors of learning, we know how important it is to help our employees, right? To have more self-awareness, to work on their attitude, because sometimes we have all the tools, we have all the technical skills, we have everything we need to do our job, but it's our attitude that might hold us back. So in the live online session, we will practice how to cushion, how to state a hero statement, how to say something so we can connect with our customers. And like I was sharing with you, I know this is a high level demo session, but we wanted to share with you not only the best practice on how we deliver our program, but also we wanted to share with you something that you can take and put into practice in your business. So before we move into the last part of this demo session, let's just take a moment and make a commitment. Out of these 3 things on how to manage and monitor our customer expectations, which one, and you don't need to tell us today, but think about what's something that might be challenging for me when I'm going under stress. What's something that gets in the way that I know that I can be better at? Write it down. And once you write it down, think about one first step that you want to start doing to become better at this. Yes, thank you, Peter, for that. Julie, is it okay if I ask you to come off mute and tell us more about that overthinking comment, just to understand better?
Yeah, I guess I'm just a very detailed person, and yeah, my brain is always thinking, so sometimes it's hard to shift from something that's happened that didn't go the way that you had hoped and to try to flip it to just keep going positive. Yeah.
I'm there with you, Julie. I think I was like that early this week. I had to assess my attitude because I was overthinking about, something that was going on in my role. And I was like thinking and thinking. So I remember one morning I was like, okay, so from our stress management principles, because we do have a lot of principles in Dale Carnegie, which principle that I need to work on today? So I focus more on, what can I do and stop thinking on the things that I cannot do. And I was like trying to, think about which one can I do. And I decided that I will, do my best. And that's it, right? I had to cooperate with the nettable. But in that way, that would prevent me to hold me back from, reacting not the best way with my customer, my internal customer. So Julie, thank you for sharing that. And yeah, for example, today I'm going to be running a session on how to transform customer complaints into opportunities. And that's one of the opportunities that we cover with our participants. That's the first one. How can we start taking self-care for us? Because if we don't take care of ourselves, it's going to be really tough to do that with our customers and clients. But I'm not going to stare. I'm going to stop there more. Let's just, walk into what can we take from this demo session today. From this 3-step model, and because I noticed that you enjoy the annotation tool, let's go again for the stamps or the drawing. Put a stamp on the step that maybe you're thinking right now, I think we're not doing this enough. Or we can start doing this more. Thank you. Ooh, the middle one. You're right. That gap, and to be able to see that gap, it's important. And I think that's one of the things that we're able to experience in the Live Online experience with our trainings. Participants sometimes, we have sessions of 60 minutes, 90 minutes. This one was 30 minutes, so this is a record, but usually it's 90 minutes. And this is something that happens. There's like an aha moment, like, and somebody mentioned in the chat, it's common sense, but because it's common sense doesn't mean that we are intentionally taking action around this. So we already decide what's the step that we want to work on more. The only thing that we have to do now is that after this session and event is done, you can go to your team and share this, right? Because that's the way that how we can take this to another level. Also, we're walking away with at least, I would say, 3 to 4 PowerPoint questions on how we can analyze our customer expectations, and a good practice on how we can manage and monitor. First, how can we work on ourselves so we can manage and monitor our customers' expectations? So I'm going to stop sharing. And before I handle this to Ben, thank you everyone for being so invested in the session. I hope that you at least take this model and put it into practice. Thank you, John. And just to mention a little bit, because Ben said that the first point of this agenda was to share with you what are some of the best practices that we do in our training experience. So we deliver Live Online sessions, and we have a blended learning experience, and Ben is going to talk more about that. But as you can see in our Live Online sessions, what we do is that we focus on engaging our participants through all the session to get them from the beginning to, like the exercise that I did with the cover your eyes. So how can we get everyone on board from second 0 so they are, engaged through all the session? We have breakout rooms, something that we cannot do here today, but hopefully next time. But we do have breakout rooms. They get to learn from everybody's experiences. And also at least we have one opportunity for practice. So, we ask people, hey, complete this in your manual, go and practice this with a partner, ask for some feedback, what you did good, what you can do differently, and let's walk away with a commitment, because, by taking action, that's when we really give knowledge a power. So Ben, what are some other things that we do? And I know that we're going to be talking a lot about what we do at Carnegie, but by the way, these are great best practices that you can take in consideration to empower yourself and service teams for results.
Thank you, Diana, for that great session and some of those best practices. You're one of our master trainers, one of our best, and one of our key resources as we look and go through processes like AIM ourselves. That's one of the things that we've done recently, is go through that process, analyzing our customers, understanding the gaps that they have, and making sure that we're meeting them where they need to be met. As part of this, they really shared 2 real key differences. One is shorter sessions for us, but also expand it beyond that classroom experience. We have the wow, but because it's shorter, we need those tools to bridge that gap between the training and the work environment as well. So when we deliver those trainings, what we see 10, 12 years ago when we started delivering Live Online, there was this abundance of massively open online courses, MOOCs, as they were called in the industry. And we saw early on that if people aren't engaging aren't interacting, aren't going in the breakout rooms, as Deanna mentioned, or joining in the chat and feel to be part of the training, that it's about them, people don't last in the training. They're going to drop out. Whereas we want to make sure that they're excited, they're engaged, they go through the entirety, they gain what they need, they're applying it, and they're benefiting from it. So the exact opposite happens when we analyzed all of our public programs, right? As the longer they are, the higher the percentage of people that complete them. It's because they feel engaged, they feel bought in. If it's happening over multiple weeks, they've participated in the program, they've applied what they've learned, and they've gotten to share it. So they've seen their own success, they've seen successes of others. It's another key best practice is highlighting those successes, both internal and with our customers. We also heard that people need micro learning, right? We're covering the key concepts pretty quickly in the program so that they get that time to interact, to practice, and to get that feedback. But what if they need to revisit those? We designed micro learning videos around all the key concepts. If you're launching a new product, a new service, a new process, embedding these and to supplement your training, short, quick 1 to 3 minute videos that highlight the key concepts so that they can be revisited in the future. That's one of the best practices that we have in the industry and that you can be applying as well. We also want to create that ripple effect within the organization. That initial drop is big and powerful, but very isolated. What we see is that ripple continues to expand and expand and expand. So how do we create that ripple effect versus just the individual drop? We know over years that the relationship between the manager and the individual is key to applying and growing in their role. But we also know that managers are incredibly busy, right? So raise your hand if your managers want to coach each and every person and develop a coaching plan after each training. I don't think I see too many hands being
people
raised.
is laughing like, yep, I'm there.
Exactly. They don't want to do that. And they're not going to, right? They're going to say, hey, how was the training? Oh, it was good. What did you learn? Oh, I learned about customer service and managing expectations. And that is great that if they're at least having that conversation. But how do we empower them and give them the tools and resources to have a more in-depth conversation? A best practice is to create that for them. We want to teach them what were the key concepts that were covered, especially if they didn't have the time to take the training themselves. But then also, what questions should I be asking my people as they complete the training to support them and to continue their development? Not those generic, how was it, smile sheets that we get, wonderful, but what are those specific questions to ask? So, for example, we cover the AIM model, but in another program, the RICH model. Instead of saying, oh, how was the RICH model? It was great. Instead, we can talk about gaps. Which gaps did you see in what our customers expect and what we provide? Oh, I saw this, or oh, I actually heard somebody else say this or that or the other. Okay, how do we bridge those gaps? So not only, wow, we've seen something, now we're throwing down that challenge to those individuals. So this is elevating that coaching and that support beyond the training, right? So, hey, you've had this wonderful experience, as interactive, as engaging. Now let's make sure that we're continuing to leverage what we've learned and apply, highlight those successes. And then as we continue to expand the ripples, it goes beyond just that manager and that individual. We can leverage training to break down those silos throughout the organization. You'll see this picture here. This is a gentleman from DSB, a large logistics company globally, but that we work with a lot out of North America. He was a managing director of one of the sites, and he was retiring. And they had just kicked off a leadership and customer service initiative, working with Dale Carnegie, and people from across the world were joining, or across the country, were joining together to experience training. But they wanted to make sure that that was not all that they were doing. So they started it off with a clear communication. They called it a playbook. They launched with this launch playbook that started with a message from their CEO, why this was so important to them as a business right now, that was signed by him and shared with everybody throughout the organization we participating. Showed them the who, the what, the why, the how, so that they went into this experience understanding what they were going to gain out of it. What they also did is every quarter, each site would come together for 1 hour to 90-minute application meeting. They would talk about the programs they took, what they learned, one individual skill that they had applied, the results of that, and then in the past, a situation that they encountered that would have been different now with the skills that they've developed. What this did is it created that community feeling. They'd see each other succeeding and they'd want to have that same success. And it created such a culture around this that when this gentleman retired, they used his favorite Dale Carnegie quote to put on a t-shirt. So they saw how this changed him to begin in a friendly way at work, and they wanted to encourage him to continue leveraging that principle in his next phase of life and retirement, so that he'd always begin in that friendly way. So what they're doing is creating that culture around it, that expectation that we are working together and that they're actually learning through Live Online from each other all across the country, hearing different perspectives about the same issues and challenges. It helps them realize that we are all in this together, something they wouldn't have experienced in a self-paced environment and didn't have the ability to have everybody travel. Bringing 500 people together is an incredibly large investment. They were able to achieve those same results of that bonding, breaking down silos, doing it virtually. Another organization that is extremely busy is Harris Teeter. I think I saw some other grocery store retail participants here. Harris Teeter is part of the Kroger family. It is known as a pretty high-end brand. And as all of us are busy, I bet you can imagine that in that retail grocery store space, they are even more busy. How are you going to get a whole bunch of people through training on customer service, on sales, on leadership, when they're always having priorities? So they needed to make it accessible. So instead of bringing everybody together, closing things down, training people at nighttime when they were actually finally closed, even if they actually even closed then, they wanted people to be able to take the sessions that worked for them when they needed it, at the day of the week they needed it, the time they needed it. They also put a heavy focus on measuring the benefits and the changes within these individuals. So at the beginning, they took an assessment. They went through a year-long training program where they had access to a lot of different options of training so that they were told to complete them all, but in whichever order and whichever times worked for them. What they found is, one, the assessments scores improved, which is great and predictable. They also found that these store leaders, those that completed the entirety of their training, were much more likely to be back at the Harris Teeter in that leadership role a year following the training. Those that did not complete it, for one reason or another, they chose that it wasn't for them, or Harris Teeter chose it wasn't for them, they were no longer around. So they wanted to make sure that these people are busy. We want to give them the opportunity to take the training. Otherwise, we're setting unfair expectations. But then we also want to track it and see how it is truly affecting our business. And what they saw was retention was key when they're able to develop these individuals and those people are bought into that development. Another best practice that we had and that we shared at the beginning and that I saw throughout this is that there's a lot of touch points with our clients. Oftentimes we see customers, service people, right? That's what our customer service is. But sales, setting those right expectations. I saw some questions about or comments about expectation setting at the beginning are key to that as well. But it goes even beyond that. And that's what Shared Health Services in Manitoba really recognized. They are a health system in Manitoba where they're providing those digital solutions, digital support both internally, but also to the patients that will be receiving support and services. Oftentimes, the focus has always been on developing the customer service and that experience at that clinical level, right? The doctors, the nurses, the techs that are in that hospital setting. But as they did those one-on-one interviews, as they had bigger conversations, they saw that there's a lot more people that affect our scores than just the doctors and nurses. So they created a customer service experience that goes out to all people that may interact with customers, from billing to scheduling to IT support when they're accessing the portal that they need to log into, and really supporting that and the health of them. So they had over 250 people that were in these roles, so they needed to be able to scale it across all these systems. And they've done so successfully. They're about 8 months into delivering it, creating this new culture around service, that even if I'm not directly interacting with a customer, my customer is internal. And if I can make their life easier, their life better, they can then provide additional higher level support to that patient. So, in summary, understanding all those touch points of your customer and addressing those expectations throughout your organization is a best practice to getting those positive feedbacks and avoiding those negative ones where even if it wasn't the product that they received, what the problem was, they're no longer your customer. So give them a great training experience, make it interactive, make it engaging, just like Deanna did today for us. Bridge that gap with application, with reinforcement, and with support for their managers in coaching them. Clearly set those expectations of the environment and what they're trying to get out of it, as DSV showed us, and then bring those people back and highlight what they're achieving. Give them the time and space to do it, measure the outcomes like Harris Teeter did, and then recognize that there's so many more people that are affecting your customer service and your customer experience beyond those traditional roles, as Share Health Services Manitoba has done. Now, at Dale Carnegie, all of these are our clients. Obviously, that's how we're able to understand their stories so well. We work with them through open enrollment programs, in-house solutions, face-to-face, live online. But then a lot of these organizations have really seen the benefit of subscription program because of that flexibility, because of the scalability, because of the ease of implementation from their HR leaders' perspectives, as well as the investment is much lower at those scalable levels. So we are happy to continue to work with you, happy to have you in your own deliveries, in your own programs, leverage these best practices that other organizations are doing to ensure that it's not just a training event, but that it affects them as individuals and it'll affect your business results in the end. Now, as we wait to answer any questions that have come up throughout this, how are we empowering you, your sales and service teams, to generate those results? We talked about engaging employees and how important their engagement is in providing support to that customer. So we'll be sharing a white paper following this about engaging those empowered employees. We want to make sure that it's a blended learning journey to bridge that gap. So we'll be sharing some best practices in a white paper that we did about optimizing that learning journey through a blended approach. I saw many of you taking copious notes. Thank you. That's awesome. We are going to be also sharing a copy of this recording with you. So enjoy that. Feel free to share it as well with others in your organization. And then we are in over 200 offices around the world. I see a lot of people from the US and Canada here today. We're in all 50 states and almost every province in Canada as well. So there's a QR code. If you'd like to get in touch with somebody locally on the ground near you, if you would scan the QR code. We'll also put this link in the chat as well. If you want to be in contact with a local Dale Carnegie office, fill out that form. Somebody will be right with you to get in contact and see how we can help support you, empower those sales and service representatives. So We have about 5 minutes left. Who has the first question?
And if you have a question, you can raise hand on the reaction option, so you can just drop that question in the chat or just come mute. So we have 3 ways of asking any questions.
And if you don't, we will be here for a few minutes afterwards if you have an individual question you'd like to ask one of us. Otherwise, as you have questions, feel free to ask them to the group in the chat, come off mute, or otherwise we'll give you an extra 5 minutes back to your day.
Thank you, Ben. And there's a quote from our founder, Mr. Dale Carnegie. He said, "Destiny is not matter of chance. It is a matter of choice." So we get to decide today what we want to do with what we just learned today, what we just heard. So hopefully we take the choice to become the best version of ourselves and enhance our customer experience. So have a great day.